Originally, I drove, about an hour over to a nearby town called Gurney, and I was going to film this particular video in that town, but the weather was terrible and I really couldn't get audio to record over the rough seas. This is 3.9, all about hosting. Now, there are three parts to hosting. There is the domain name, which we cover in a separate video. There's building the website, which is mostly what section 3, this section, is about. And then there's a part called hosting. Now, you can have someone else host your website, or you can do it yourself. And that is what we're going to cover right now. Over the years, I've developed some opinions about hosting, as you would guess, and right now I really prefer to work with smaller hosting companies. See, a company like GoDaddy, they're very well known, they're popular. The problem that I personally have with GoDaddy is you may host a website with them and they could put your website in a server hotel in Bangladesh, for example, maybe on a server that dates from the 1990s. However, if you go with a smaller company, it's easier to know where you're being hosted. Also, I like to pick up the phone and talk to somebody, and talk to a real person. Turning in a trouble ticket to a fellow in Russia, for example, it's good, it's perfectly acceptable, and in fact, it's the normal. But I personally prefer smaller companies where I know who I'm dealing with. Now, you may be interested in knowing I deal with a company called Chili Dog Hosting, owned by a fellow called Greg. He doesn't even know I'm making this video, and I certainly get nothing for an endorsement, but I found him to be quite knowledgeable. He's a good guy, and his server, by the way, is out of Boston. He's, I think, got 8 or 10 servers, and he's very good at what he does. Now, I want to tell you next about something called cPanel. You see, if you go ahead and give hosting your own website a shot, you're going to want cPanel, and I'll show you why. When you first log into cPanel, you probably will be presented with a screen that does not look like this. Don't let that throw you off. The actual content doesn't vary. However, the interface and the icons used, they seem to change them over every month or two. I don't know why that is. One of the things you'll be interested in is disk usage. Obviously, that's going to tell you how much space you have on the package you have received from your particular company. Backup Wizard is self-explanatory. I'm sure you will take an interest in backing up your site from time to time, especially if you don't have a copy of it on a computer you always have access to. MySQL. This is a worthwhile thing to play with, at least to know about. What that is a database, and it can record some cool stuff for you, like when people come and they leave email addresses or sign up for things, you can set your database up to record a lot of that information. Here's another backup from my particular host company. You can add domains if you happen to be a reseller. Email forwarders. This is one you do want to know about. What this is going to allow you to do is to forward everything that goes to your entire domain name over to the email box of your choice. Now, to add an email account, you simply type the name in, let's say service or info or whatever you're looking for, then the domain, so info at, say, colonialnavy.org. These are all accounts of mine, and it will create the email box for you down here. That's literally all that's involved. So if your provider wants to charge you $100 for that, it may be something you want to consider getting a different provider. Now, the default email account, what that is, if someone just sends a random email to you and it isn't to any particular account, it winds up here. The default email account is anything at yourwebsite.com winds up in here, and of course almost all of it's trash. It's, in this particular case, 1,300 and some emails. You need to go clean this out from time to time, and the reason is it will actually chew up lots and lots of space on your server. And of course it's all information from your friends in China who would like to sell you coats and so forth. Cloudflare, this is worth knowing about. What this company does is they will have an entire group of servers scattered around the globe. So let's say somebody in Europe asks for a copy of your website. They've come to visit your website. This will download from a server in Europe. So it's going to be much faster and is secure. It has some security things involved with it. And the cool part about all of this is it's actually one-click installation. IP blocker. I've only used this 1 or 2 times, but if somebody is just being an absolute troll, they're coming to your site, they're leaving ugly comments, they're filling out ugly things, you can actually look their IP address up on your raw log files, which is also up here. You can look their IP address up and then block them. That computer can never come back to your website. SSL, Secure Sockets Layer. This is important if you want to have a secure website. Let's say you're selling something and you have an online store. You'll wind up needing a secure website. One of the features on cPanel is something called Softalicious. And what Softalicious is a series of install packages with some fairly popular software. For example, you can get WordPress, or you can add a poll to your website, e-commerce and blogs. You can find all of these software packages, perhaps there's 100 of them. They're located down the left side of the panel. Click on a drop down, it'll open up and show you more information about each website. Off in the center of the page, you'll see a large logo for the particular software in that category. Click on one of those. You can investigate it to see which software package you prefer. A cron job, what's that? Well, let's say you've got something. Do you remember I mentioned that my SQL database, it was up here, and that we would record certain things? Well, maybe at night you don't want all that information piling up on your website. It will take up too much room. You can have this automatically delete all the information and clean that out so it's ready for you the next morning. You could also use it to record and back up your website. Here we can change the language, contact information, and all that type of stuff. So this is worthwhile. It's worth knowing that it is available to you. Once again, it's called cPanel, and to get to it, you're going to type www.yourwebsite.com or net/cPanel, and you'll be presented with the login credentials. Now, if you do decide to host your own website, one of the things you're going to have to find is some FTP software. That stands for File Transfer Protocol. You don't really need to know that. All you need to do is go onto a search engine, type free FTP, and hit enter. You'll come up with several pieces of software. You're welcome to choose the one you like. I've tried several. Personally, I use one called Fetch. It's not free. If memory serves, it's developed by the University of Delaware. Once again, I get nothing for it. It's not really an endorsement, but I like it because it seems to be faster than the free software I was using before, and it has a nice interface. And so the one I use is called Fetch. That's going to do it for this time. I'll see you shortly. Bye-bye.